This is the Horse Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood.
And I'm Jennifer Connor.
From Equestrian Businesswomen. And you're listening to Equestrian B2B, the podcast that brings together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and equestrians for conversations about how they build and sustain a successful business.
On today's show, we are speaking to Meredith Clarke and Meghan Brady about being mentors, finding mentors, and how to get the most out of a mentorship.
Meredith Clarke received a Bachelor of Science degree with distinction from the University of Sydney in Australia, and she is accredited by the International Association of Professional Farriers. She was a high school and TAFE, Technical and Further Education teacher in Australia for 8 years in multi-science subjects. She received the Philip E. Jones Award for Excellence in Education. After 4 years of studying under a master farrier to learn the trade, Meredith began her professional shoeing career in the U.S. in 1992, working with cutting and reining horses for the first 6 years. She transferred to English sport horses since, and narrowed her specialty to hunters and jumpers. She has been the official farrier at several horse shows, including the HITS horse shows and now at the Desert Horse Park in California for more than 20 years. In addition to her farrier work, she developed and produced Fancy Footwork, a horse owner's introduction to horseshoeing, and has been an invited speaker at the Singapore Malaysia Jockey Club, New England Farriers Convention, Idaho Horse Expo, Kansas Blacksmith and Farrier Convention, Cornell University Farriers Convention, and Equitana, USA.
Meghan Brady is an experienced equine industry professional with certifications in equine massage and integrated equine performance bodywork. She is the owner and member liaison for the Equestrian Travel Association and a certified PATH International riding instructor and dressage rider. After years developing several successful businesses within the equine industry has led Meghan down a path to help others do the same. As a certified business coach, Meghan helps and guides aspiring equine professionals to build their dream business.
The Saratoga Women in Business Spectacular is the first ever horse show created by women, operated by women, benefiting women's health, and showcasing women in business. This one-of-a-kind, extraordinary event is one you will not want to miss and is open to all competitors, both men and women, in the equestrian community. The Saratoga WIB Spectacular Horse Show is a USEF A-rated jumper 3-star competition from July 13th through 17th, 2022 in Stillwater, New York. The Saratoga WIB Spectacular will partner and collaborate with equestrian businesswomen on this initiative. Exhibitors and attendees will be offered educational opportunities throughout the show and beyond to meet, interact, listen, and learn from a variety of remarkable women willing to share information about their careers and the paths they chose. For information on how to support Saratoga WIB Spectacular, visit www.saratogahorseshows.com.
We're so happy to have Meredith and Meghan joining us here today to talk about mentorship and their experiences in the industry, as well as the businesses that they've created. Connor, I think you'll probably start with the first question.
Yeah, so we're going to start with Meredith. When did you realize that you wanted to be a mentor?
Well, I've always been fascinated by education. That was my background. And the second assistant horseshoer that I had work with me just showed the same love and passion for horseshoeing that I did. And so I think that's when I realized that I wanted to combine my passion of education and horseshoeing, my knowledge of horseshoeing, and start mentoring a younger person, the next generation to come on and take my place.
Mm-hmm. What was your first mentoring experience like?
It was very heartwarming. It also showed me that I needed a lot of patience that I thought I had, but it certainly tests the patience, that's for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the mentoring that you're doing is maybe a little different than like what we talk about in kind of a business world sense, because yours is so hands-on, and I feel like it's so much more in depth than someone would get, like if they meet someone for coffee and get advice, and that, you know, some people consider that a mentorship, but yours is so hands-on, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think also where one might meet someone for coffee for advice, our role as a mentor in the horseshoeing industry is actually to prepare someone to take on an entire business. So we're teaching them everything from the ground up. They basically come to us from school, and then we teach them the business so that within a few years they can actually leave and have a successful business themselves. It's not just one aspect of the business, it's the entire business.
Do you struggle though with like clients? Have you ever had problems with clients like allowing you to have your apprentice come in and do the work while you're mentoring them?
I've only ever had that happen once. And funnily enough, the person that was working with me was not a young assistant. It was a very experienced assistant. But generally speaking, I think clients are fairly open to understanding that young people really do need hands-on experience in this industry. And so they give them that. They just have to trust the mentor is experienced enough to know what to allow them to do and what not to allow them to do. I never overface the young people that are working with me, so they're always very capable of completing each task I give them.
Yeah. And you're always there to oversee it anyways, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always make it a point of telling them, I ask you to do nothing that I can't fix afterwards if you mess it up.
Safety net.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's nice, because I find I work in the veterinary industry, and I do find that sometimes when people have interns at their clinics and they send their intern out without somebody overseeing them, people kind of have a panic attack about it. So that's why I was just curious what your experience was over it, because I know, you know, sometimes there can be issues like with vets. Yes,
but I really feel like shoeing horses, it's not as life-threatening as being in the veterinary industry. The likelihood of someone making a mistake when they're pulling off a shoe or actually rasping a hoof wall is minimal compared to someone inserting a catheter, for instance. It's not as devastating if they make a little mistake. You know, they don't rasp the wall smoothly. That's not the same.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's true. And Meghan, why did you create the Strides mentorship program?
I created that. So my background is in equine bodywork, and I created it to help it started off as helping other equine bodywork professionals start a business as well. And I just found that I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I found that the group setting really helped because you learn different things from different people all the time. So we meet once a month and we discuss, you know, everything from case studies that we're doing to business strategies. And it does, where you are located does influence your business model. So that was really something that was highlighted in working with a group of people. And it has expanded into other businesses within the equine industry. So I think it's great that we have a group of professionals from different aspects kind of coming together and working together and supporting each other through this group. Yeah.
Really cool. What are some of the things that you've gotten out of that group? Like how many people are involved?
So right now it fluctuates. So I do it on a 6-month track. And so, because I find that 6 months is if you're trying to build your business, it's a really good timeline. And then if they want to continue, they can. But like the first, we talk about different subjects each month. So, attracting clientele, retaining clientele, working with other professionals, setting goals for yourself and your business, the work-life balance. A lot of these people, like myself, I ride as well. I have horses, and I work with horses, and trying to have a life maybe that's outside of horses.
What does that mean?
Exactly. And so we talk about all those things, and even to bookkeeping, even to making sure that you're planning a day for office work, or, just little things that I think people, when they start a business, they get overwhelmed by everything that needs to get done, and really blocking off that time. And this being that we need time to think about what our goals are for our business, or it will just kind of overrun your life. So
that's great.
Those are all the different subjects. And then, people come with other, things that they want to discuss, from website building to social media to, things like that.
Yeah.
So
I think especially when you're first starting a small business, you're so focused on the work itself and doing the work that the other things kind of fall by the wayside. Like,
absolutely,
it's hard to be able to put that time aside and focus on other things outside of the actual work that brings the money in.
Yeah.
But it's so important.
It is. And, I fell into that trap building my businesses. And so then that's how this got developed. Cause I needed the time too, to sit back and be evaluate what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Treat yourself like a client too.
Exactly. So
cool. And Meredith, what was one of the biggest lessons that you learned from when you started mentoring?
I needed a lot more patience than I thought I was going to. And it was interesting listening to Meghan, because I think that's one of the things that as a mentor that we can teach. And I would love to come to your clinics, Meghan. So your meetings, that would be great.
Yeah.
I do think the schools teach hands-on. They teach handling of tools, they teach blacksmithing, etc. But as Meghan just said, and as you guys have stated, there's a lot more to running a small business. And so being a mentor is actually teaching young people, typically young people, how to actually run a business. And you do need time for yourself. So I think for me, actually being able to impart knowledge freely was really important. And it's difficult to do that because you actually have to open up yourself to somebody else, and you have to trust them with the information that you pass on, not just your information about your business, your own personal business, but information about the way that you live your life, the way that you conduct your business and your life. That's I didn't really realize at the time when I was taking on a mentee, that I would have to actually be opening up my own personal life.
Yeah. But I think that's probably what makes you such a good mentor, is that you are willing to share that information and be able to be more open about those things. I think that's hard, especially if it's somebody kind of in the same industry as you who could potentially be competition in the future, right? And but
I think that's one of the primary things that a mentor has to understand. And I have personally found it challenging at times when I've actually seen a couple of my students be more successful than I. It takes a blow to your ego because you're trying to teach them to be as good as you because you think you're wonderful. And in fact, they go on to become more wonderful than you. And suddenly it's a little bit of you have to take a little bit of a back step and realize that instead of taking it as competition, but recognizing that it's a compliment to you that you've actually started them on their journey and they've taken it further. And that's what your goal is.
It's should be a pat on your back. Like it was a job well done by you that you trained them so well. Yeah,
it should. But it's hard to accept it as that in the beginning until it's happened a couple of times. Then it becomes easier.
And Meredith, was there someone who mentored you when you started out?
Well, when I started, you have to remember that I'm quite old. So when I initially started, I started my career very late because I was teaching first. So I didn't start until I was 35. And it wasn't, in those days, it wasn't typical to go to a horseshoeing school or a farrier school. It was usual to study for usually around about 4 years with a master farrier. And that's what I did. I initially started with my ex-husband, who was a master farrier. And then from there, I went and spent time with other farriers that had skills in areas that he didn't have skills in.
So no one specifically teaching you about how to build a business?
Oh, no one teaching me about how to build a business at all.
Yeah.
No, just teaching me about horseshoeing. And that's where, and I think the schools do that. They teach you about horseshoeing. I know they teach a little about how to build a business, but it's so much more complex than that, as Meghan has alluded to. So I feel that having a mentor really helps you to learn what being a small business owner is all about and how to go about it.
Yeah. And what do you think, a question for both of you, how can someone find a mentor?
Meghan?
I think there's definitely different ways to go about that. I think to find a mentor specifically in your field, I think just going out and meeting people. And I, like for myself, I just asked people if I could shadow them for the day and, pick their brain. And it's definitely a relationship. So you have to figure out if you guys get along, if this will work. And also as a mentor, you're holding them accountable for things. And so I think to have that kind of relationship with somebody, you almost have to interview them to see if that works. I know for myself, for my business, how I do it is I get on a call with somebody. It's called a discovery call. And we just learn about each other and see if this will work. And then we move on. I think the internet is a great resource for people. So there's that. And then just local, like where you live and, picking the industry that you want to, or picking the profession within the industry and, find somebody that you look up to or that they have a business that you admire. I think that's, you want to learn from somebody who's already doing what you want to be doing.
I agree with Meghan. It's very easy to find a mentor. You can go to, in the horseshoeing industry, you can go to the horseshoeing schools, supply shops, social media, local talent, but finding the correct mentor or one that's going to suit you is much more challenging because it is a relationship that you're building, and finding the mentor that suits you is much more challenging than just simply finding a mentor. A lot of people will want to teach you, or be open to teaching you, or they think they are in the beginning, but then compatibility and mutual respect are long characters that you have to build. And for me, making a list for a mentor, I'm very specific about the people that I take. I won't take as a horseshoer, I won't take anyone that doesn't have a background in horses, because a lot of people go to horseshoeing school, they have no background in horses. And for me, safety is so incredibly important that if they don't have a background in horses, they don't have a knowledge of safety. So that becomes one of my number one priorities.
Yeah, they have to have that time around horses and know what they're dealing with. Yeah.
If somebody's nervous about asking for a mentor, do you have advice for them to kind of push through that?
I'm nervous about doing podcasts.
Yet here you are.
Yeah, here I am on my first podcast. It's very difficult when people are shy or they're reticent about making advances to people. But like as Meghan said, finding a group that will be supportive, female horseshoers, for example, there's some groups on the internet that are specifically devoted to female horseshoers. Being able to join a group like that and get support from other females, other women in the industry, I think that's really very helpful. And you'll almost always find someone on those sites that locally will be prepared to take you in and help you through that nervous period.
Yeah, and it sounds like if you can be in a group setting and kind of collaborate with a bunch of people and then kind of hone in on one person that you really seem to connect with, that probably makes it an easier process.
Yeah, that's why I like Megan's idea so much of having that group to go to and kind of everyone more experiences to pull from as well.
Absolutely.
And Meghan, what do you think makes a mentorship successful?
I think having respect and trust for each other and showing up. Honestly, it's really just that simple. But I think trust is a big factor. And, I always, when I'm going into that kind of relationship, there has to be accountability on both sides. I'm going to show up for you and you're going to show up for me. And that builds that trust, and that I'm suggesting these things. I'm telling you to do these things because of my knowledge because I've been there, done that, and made those mistakes already. And so I think having that trust and that rapport with one another is huge.
Yeah. And Meredith, what does it look like? A successful mentorship look like for you?
I agree with Meghan. That mutual respect and trust is very, very important. I also think that for me, the mentor, the horseshoeing mentor, must be interested in getting the horseshoer out of the door into their own business as quickly as possible. It used to be around about 3 to 4 years, but now with the advent of schools, that time frame is actually cut to around about 18 months to 2 years. So that makes it a whole lot easier. But I think that your goal has to be to move the young horseshoer into their own business, not to have them standing by being your assistant day after day, just simply being a beast of burden.
What you're saying is you think that what people can expect to get out of a mentorship is that they're going to move into their own business.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the goal of it. Yeah.
That should be the absolute goal. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I do see times when people say that they're going to mentor a young person, but really what they just want is an assistant. They just want somebody that's going to labor for them. And that's very different to somebody that's being a mentor. As a mentor, your goal is to get the next generation of horseshoers out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. And Meghan, for your business, what can somebody expect to get out of their mentorship?
I hope, my goal is that they can, set some goals for themselves, set some business goals, and achieve them. And everybody has different goals of what they want their business to look like. I work with people who just want to do things part-time. I have people that want to conquer the world. So, and really kind of, that's where it takes on you have to individuality for each person, because somebody might need more education on the subject, or they're ready to go and they just need education on educating people on what they do. So it is very individual, but so my goal is to have them set goals for themselves and then achieve those by the end of the mentorship. And because the people who are coming to me are already, they're out of school. We'll just use bodywork, for example. They're out of, schooling and they're ready to start. They're ready to get clients. And so then they're wanting to do this and get paid. So they've kind of already gone through the schooling and the mentorship on the actual physical work side. And now they need mentorship on how to build this business. What does that mean? Yeah. And the goal is for them to have a successful business, whatever that means to them, because my definition of success might be different than yours.
And I think, we've kind of touched on the qualities that someone who is a mentor needs to have. Do you think there are certain skills that they would need to possess as well, Meghan?
I think definitely you need to be able to listen and hear what they want, your mentee, because I think we have a tendency to project what our goals are for you instead of what their goals are for them. And so to really listen and kind of hold their feet to the fire about what they really want, because I think what happens is people say they want this and then they realize, oh, maybe that's not actually what I want, and kind of peeling off those layers of really, this is what that looks like if this is really what you want to do, if this is what you want to say you want to do, this is what it's going to take to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think people then realize like, oh, maybe I don't want my life to look like that.
Right. And Meredith, I feel like there's probably a lot of that in what you do as well. Like maybe somebody goes through school and is all gung-ho and ready to be a farrier, and then when they get into the business of it and working with you, maybe their outlook changes, or do you have to keep them invested, on what their goals are and how to reach them?
I think so. I totally agree with Meghan that you have to, as a mentor, you have to be open to what it is that your mentee wants their business to look like. And I have worked with young farriers. My niece has gone on to be extremely successful as a therapeutic farrier. And I've also mentored a young farrier whose goal was simply to have a backyard business, who she wanted to be able to get up and have dinner with her, have breakfast with her husband and be home by 2:00 in the afternoon. And that was what she wanted her business to look like. But I think as a mentor in my business, you need to have reasonably advanced skills in horseshoeing and business and be business oriented. But after that, I think then you have to base your skill level on what it is that your young assistant needs. If your young assistant wants to be involved in competitive blacksmithing, that's not my field. So I find another farrier that I can send them to. If they want to do therapeutic shoeing, laminitis, for example, that's also not my field. I can handle it, but I prefer not to. And so I then send them to a farrier that has a much more advanced level of skill in that particular area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that self-awareness, I think, is really important in your field of being able to recognize that you're not the best person for them. Even if they come to you and say, I really want to learn from you and I want you to teach me about therapeutic farriery,
no.
You have to be like, nope, sorry, you need to go to someone else.
Right. I can give them all the basics. And it does concern me when farriers come out of school, especially the short schools. There's some schools that are only a month, 2 months, and then there's other schools that, like Kentucky or Cornell, where they're actually much more intensive courses. Those schools, I'm not so concerned if somebody comes out of there and wants to develop their own business, but it really does worry me somewhat. I think it's disingenuous to the owners that a horseshoer comes out of a month or 2 month school feeling as though they have enough knowledge to be able to work on horses. It's so easy to damage and lame horses as a farrier, and their limited knowledge at that place is concerning to me. I think that every young farrier should take on a mentor if at all possible, unless they've done an advanced or a long course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely important to recognize, because I think with absolutely anything dealing with horses, 1 month isn't long enough for anything you want to do with horses.
No.
Yeah.
10 years isn't long enough.
Yeah, exactly. A lifetime.
Yeah. Meghan, do you find it hard to keep people accountable to what they want to do? Like they say they want it. Is there anything you have to do in order to like prep yourself to make sure you're not being too much of a hard
I think people have to step out of their comfort zones a lot. And so sometimes it turns into almost a therapy session, for lack of a better word, because this is what you say you want to do. And these are the steps to do that, but you're not doing it. Why? And a lot of it is people are, fearful. There's a lot of fear around that. And there's a lot of stepping out of your comfort zone and really pushing people, and knowing when to push and when to back off is kind of key, I think. And I've learned that lesson. And at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, that's on them a little bit. I'm here to keep you accountable. This is what you said you wanted, but these are the steps you have to, if you want to build a business, you have to go out and meet people. Yes, we work with horses, but they have people attached to them. And this is a people business at the end of the day. And a lot of this in this industry, it's a lot of referrals. Think about it. I don't care if you're a trainer, a farrier, a body worker, even a vet, it's about referrals and knowing people. And I think a lot of people I see, if I just post on social media, I'll get clients. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. And people want to see you and the way you interact with their animal and the way that you interact with these animals. That's huge. So I find that a lot of people just really want to not do that, not go out and meet people, and but they have to. So, and it is a hard balance to keep, because we all have different personalities. Some people are more outgoing than others, and it's just, they're more comfortable doing that. So it's really finding what works for that individual, and maybe I have to tweak some things or suggest different things that they do, or how they go about it. So.
I really liked earlier when you were talking about your discovery session that you have to see if people are compatible. But Meredith, what do you do to make sure that you're compatible with somebody?
I make a list. For me, I'm a list maker. For me, I make a list of the things that are extremely important for me personally to be able to be compatible with people, with a mentee. For example, timeliness is critical to me. I live in Southern California. We have a horrendous traffic problem. And so meeting somebody on time, and I shoe a lot of horses. So each day I do between 8 and 10 horses. If I am 15 minutes late for the first person, it can put me an hour late for the second person. And I like to be on time. And my clients expect me to be on time. So timeliness is critically important. Personal integrity, not taking jobs above my pay grade. If I look at a horse and I know that requires somebody that has more advanced skills than I have in whatever particular area of farriery it is, I recommend someone. I have a very strong network of referrals. So I expect someone to take personal responsibility when they make mistakes. I expect them to have personal integrity of knowing where their pay grade is and not taking jobs above it. So for me, I just simply make a list. And then when I interview people, I interview based on that list. And I had a wonderful assistant for quite a while. I wasn't mentoring him. He was just an assistant. But after a year, he just couldn't be timely. And he was always 15 to 30 minutes late. And I had to let him go based on that, because I knew that was one of my compatible issues. So that's the way that I go about it.
And that's a deal breaker for you.
Absolutely. Every time.
Well, I like that because I've waited for quite a few farriers in my day. I wish I was closer and you could come. And
they say it's like herding cats.
Yeah, it really is.
And Meredith, how do you think somebody can be a good mentee?
Well, firstly, if you choose the correct mentor, then I think that becomes quite an easy situation. Being open-minded is really important. because you're asking someone to teach them what they know. It may not even necessarily be what you want to know, but you're asking someone, what do you know that you can pass on to me? So being open-minded and being prepared to work hard, simply understanding what it is that your mentor requires of you and trying to fulfill that as best as you can. We all make mistakes, and the mistakes are unimportant. It's the desire to fulfill your role effectively that's important.
Mm-hmm. And a willingness to learn.
Oh, absolutely. But, generally speaking, I mean, no one's going to take on a position of a mentee unless they are wanting to learn and willing to learn. Once they become closed-minded, which typically I feel happens in a situation around about 18 months or so, is when I found that mentees develop their own sense of purpose. And about that time, they start to close off to what you as the mentor is trying to instruct them. They see it as you trying to replicate a situation, and instead they've got their own ideas. And at that point, that's the time for you to be encouraging them to move off into their own business, because they are developing their own sense of self-worth and their own sense of what their business wants to look like. And it's going to be different to yours, and you have to be open to accepting that.
And Meghan, how about for you? What does a good mentee look like?
Well, I completely agree with Meredith. I think if somebody is seeking out a mentor, they're ready to hear the information. But I think just listening and having the mutual respect that this person is there to help you and to guide you into what you say you want. And they're not telling you things to do for you to do them for no reason. There's a purpose behind all this. I think being a good mentee just means that you are entrusting this person to advise you and to hold you accountable. And so I think if you can listen and be open-minded, like Meredith said, and trust that they are doing what's in your best interest.
Mm-hmm. And I think, we've kind of been talking about mentoring people who are at the start of their careers, but a lot of times people may need mentorship when they're already in their career and maybe they want to grow or they want to learn something new that'll help their business. Meghan, maybe you've seen this. How can mentorship help someone who already has a career?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even myself, I have a mentor. I have my own mentor because you change. What my business looked like 10 years ago isn't what it looks like now. You change, your goals change. So I don't think it's just about the beginning of your business. I think you should have a mentor throughout your career because you get older, you have more different life goals in general. And so I don't think it should matter at what stage you are, whether you just are out of school or you're 20 years in. You can always get advice. You can always get somebody to hold you accountable. You can always have time to reflect on what you want your life, because it's your business is your life, really, because of that work-life balance, and really reflect on, hey, is this really going the way that I want it to go? And do I need to make some changes? Or, hey, I've been working 75 hours a week and I don't want to do that anymore. So I think it's always a good idea to have a mentor, no matter what. No matter where you are.
Meredith, have you experienced that at all, of someone who comes to you who's already established but maybe wants to learn something new that you could help them with?
I have, but I totally agree with Meghan that even though I am a mentor myself, I also have a mentor. I always feel as though for me, my weak area is blacksmithing. And so just of late, I've taken to having a mentor that's going to help me improve my blacksmithing, because when I do leave this industry, I want to leave better than I am today. So that's critical for all of us. And I think once you develop as a farrier, you're wanting to have special. Most people come flat during their career. I mean, a farrier life is a long life. It's usually, anywhere from 15 to 30 odd years. And during that time, it's very easy to become complacent and flat if you don't keep challenging yourself. The only way to challenge yourself is to select somebody that knows more in an area that you're interested in and to go study with them. Yeah. So, yes, I have people that come to me because my specialty is being a show farrier. And I have people that are established and experienced farriers, but they want to move into the show farrier industry. So they'll come and work with me, specifically covering certain shows. I cover one that's about 2 months long, so that's always an excellent time for them to come and actually improve their skills in that particular area.
Meredith, what's your favorite part about being a mentor?
Seeing typically they are young, my young farriers leave and start their own business. And around about 5 years into their own business, being able to speak with them on an equal basis as a peer and actually seek out their opinion of a new product, a new technique they're using, etc. I love that part.
And Meghan, what kind of advice can you give to people if, first of all, they want to be a mentor, and then secondly, when they're looking for a mentor?
If you want to be a mentor, I think make sure that you are educated in your field and what you're going to be mentoring in. For myself, my background is body work and amongst some other things, but that's my main. That's been my main focus for the last 15 years. And so I always tell people, continue your education. And for myself to be a mentor in that specific area, I always want to keep learning. And also, it's never a bad idea for coaching, like for business coaching. I went and there's tons of online classes. If you get certified in it, that's what I did. And so to be a mentor, I think you're always I say this, whether you're a mentor or you're a mentee, just always keep learning and educating yourself. And so I think that is a huge aspect, especially in the horse world. There's always something to learn, and opening your mind to other perspectives on the same situation. Meredith's going to have a different perspective from a farrier point of view than maybe I would from a body worker, and the trainer is going to have a different point of view on this animal. And I think having that whole team approach is very important.
Mm-hmm. And Meredith, what kind of advice can you give if they want to be a mentor or they're looking for a mentor?
I think being a mentor, you really have to examine, are you looking to be a mentor or are you looking for an assistant? And that's the first thing. Don't offer yourself up as a mentor if that's not what you're truly wanting to do. And that requires a lot of patience, compassion, a lot of time and effort, and it's very emotionally and physically draining at times. So don't offer yourself up as a mentor if you don't have the capacity to be able to do that. As a mentee, once again, going back, as Meghan said, you really have to be open-minded. You're asking someone to teach you. You have to be open-minded and neutral enough to listen to what they have to say, even if you don't agree, and then form your own opinions.
Well, I think that was really interesting and answered a lot of questions that Jen and I have been discussing about mentorship and wanting, people's perspectives on it. So we really appreciate you guys sharing your expertise with us and with our listeners. So at the end of each episode, we ask the same rapid fire questions to each guest, and Connor starts with the first question.
Meghan, what is one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
Learning when to say no.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's hard to do.
It is. I'm still learning it, but.
And Meredith, what is one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
Support other women.
Yeah, I like
Yes.
that. Mhm.
Absolutely.
We wholeheartedly agree on that one.
Yes.
The second question for Meredith: what is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
Not procrastinating.
And Meghan, what is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
Every morning I wake up and I spend at least 20 minutes meditating or just having some quiet time without a phone, without people, even if it's just taking my dogs for a walk. And that kind of keeps me motivated and in a good mindset for the day. And I'm pretty, I stick to that. Yeah.
That's great.
Meghan, what's your favorite horse movie?
It's a Disney movie, Spirit.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Meredith, what's your favorite horse movie?
Well, I'm going to join Meghan because mine is a Disney movie also. I know you're going to expect that I was going to say The Man from Snowy River, being that I'm Australian. But it's actually The Lone Ranger because my son was a stuntman on it. And so even though I love to see horses, it's much more exciting to see your son.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's exciting.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It was.
Wow.
Was that in the U.S. that he
Yes.
filmed?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the last question, Meredith, who would you recommend to be a future guest on this podcast?
I don't have a specific name, but one thing that's really concerned me is in my part of the industry, I'm in the industry of hunters and jumpers, and I feel that it's got really primarily people with very high incomes have now been attracted to the sport. And so people with moderate incomes are now find it very difficult to be competitive in our sport. I would really like to see someone interviewed that has achieved their goal of being very successful in the industry, coming from a moderate income.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd love that as well. And we like to share those stories.
There's so many young people that want to become successful in our industry, and if they knew the steps to take, or had a little bit of a guideline about the steps that they could take to be able to participate more effectively, that would be really beneficial to the young people.
Meghan, who would you recommend to be a future guest on the podcast?
I would recommend so many different people, but Reese Coffer Sandfield, I think she'd be great.
And what does she do?
She is a dressage trainer, and she also teaches in the University of Kentucky.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining us. We love talking with you, and we think our listeners will get a lot out of what you were able to share with us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. I really love talking about this topic with both of them. They had so much great advice, and I was hoping Meredith wouldn't be too nervous in her first podcast ever, but she was so awesome, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was excellent. She was really good. And it's so interesting to get both of their perspectives, right? Because Meredith is so hands-on in what her mentorship looks like. And it's a different hands-on, right, for Meghan in hers, talking about business. And, it's a lot of online work where Meredith is like one-on-one in person.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great to have those different perspectives. And like Meghan said, she'll work with someone for maybe 6 months as a business coach, but Meredith is with someone for maybe 2 years until they leave to start their own business. So I think it's cool to show how different mentorships can be depending on, what your job is or what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And I liked how Meredith was talking about the competition, right? When you're leaving, because not I think that maybe it's a little less in Meghan's case,
Right.
but like with Meredith, like, yeah, I could definitely see where, you're creating somebody to be your competitor at the end of the day. And it's interesting that, it's a struggle when they become more successful. But I mean, I looked at it like, wow, that's like great that you've trained somebody so well that they've gone on to be as successful as they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that too. I think it's really cool to see that, even if it's hard to deal with at the start personally.
Yeah. And continuing to have a mentor, I think is important. I mean, I know I have a couple of different mentors and people that I look up to and I seek advice from in business and in the field that I'm in. And I think that, anybody can kind of get a mentor if they need that push or they need that help.
Yeah. And being able to ask for something, even if you have an established business and it's, you've plateaued or there's some new thing that you don't understand that you want help with, or you just need some basic business advice, or, you've invested so much of yourself into something and now you want to know how to back out of it. Like things like that, it doesn't matter where you are in the course of your career. You can find someone to help you with the issues that you're having.
Yeah. And I think people just have to not be afraid to ask or to seek out what they're looking for, right? Because I think
absolutely
that could be a challenge is people are like, okay, I'd love to have a mentor, but like I'm afraid to ask somebody. Just ask.
Yeah.
If you're compatible, I think it works out.
For sure. And I think that's the hardest part that a lot of women probably have is just asking for help and
everything, right?
And in all aspects of life, but in business too. I don't think it makes you any less or makes you feel, it shouldn't make you feel like a failure that you need help. It should, it's what you're trying to do to, like Meghan said, keep learning and keep growing, and things never really stay the same. So you have to be able to reach out and want to do more. So take that first step. And if there's somebody you admire and you like their business and what they've done with it, like make a phone call, send an email, see what you can get from it. I've found, I think I've said this before, but with Equestrian Businesswomen has really shown me how much people are willing to help and to be there for others. And every time I've asked for help, I've gotten it from someone. So I think that is definitely a lesson that I've learned over the past few years.
Yeah. Definitely. I've seen it. I've seen it with this podcast when we ask for guests and,
yeah,
it's good.
That was great. Share your knowledge.
Yeah. It was a great topic. It was awesome.
Yeah. Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. Find the links to today's guests and the show notes at www.eqbusinesswomen.com. Equestrian B2B is out twice a month on the 1st and the 15th.
You can find out more at eqbusinesswomen.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Find Equestrian B2B wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. You can have all 20 plus shows of the Horse Radio Network with you wherever you go with their free app for iPhone and Android. Go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network.
Now go find a mentor or be a mentor.